considering the financial impact of this war on Americans?
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
What about the pressure on Americans and prices right now?
Every American understands.
Americans, how they're feeling about
every American. Are you listening to me? Every American understands. If the stock market goes up or down a little bit, the American people understand it.
Apparently, the economic suffering of Americans has not been a factor in persuading Trump to end the war and make a deal as quickly as possible. And for Americans who are hoping that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates further, well, now, thanks to a new Labor Department report showing that inflation has ticked up to 3.8% in April, unlikely the Federal Reserve is going to cut interest rates. In fact, they're having conversations about raising interest rates. Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, I got 2 things out of this. Number one, obviously Trump doesn't care about what happens to you guys at all. It's not even a consideration. The Israeli donors are 1 billion times more important than you guys. And I'm gonna show you the price of flights and how much they've gone up in a minute, and the devastation that we're feeling on behalf, because we're all forced to kneel to Israel. But the second part of it, guys, is potentially more devastating. What is Trump's comments harbinger of? As what's next? Are we gonna go further into the war? So we'll talk about that as well. Go ahead, Anna.
So as you heard in that video earlier, Trump seems to genuinely believe that this war is about nuclear weapons. I thought he was playing along with the Israelis in regurgitating their cover story, because we all know the Israelis really want regime change or a failed Iranian state. But no, Trump really thinks, oh, we need to be worried about Iran's enriched uranium. And so he insists on moving forward with this war. So the Wall Street Journal notes that it's had a huge impact on our economy already. And this is just the beginning. This is the tip of the iceberg. So the figures reported by the Labor Department surpassed the previous month's reported increase of 3.3%. Economists polled by the Wall Street Journal had expected inflation of 3.7%. And as I mentioned, the Labor Department report indicates that April's inflation ticked up to 3.8%. So the April increase was the highest in 3 years. I remember what inflation was like in 3 years. It was crushing the American people, and it was related to supply chain disruptions and corporate greed from the COVID pandemic recovery. However, the largest factor contributing to the current inflation is, of course, the war against Iran and its impact on energy prices, which accounted for over 40% of the month-to-month increase in inflation. Energy was up 18% from a year earlier. Within that, gasoline was up 28% and fuel oil jumped 54%. And remember, guys, higher gas prices, higher energy prices typically translate to higher transportation, not just transportation of people, but also transportation of goods and certain things that we need, like food and clothing. And the Wall Street Journal also notes that natural gas prices have already pushed up fertilizer costs. It's a real double whammy here, because fertilizer costs have been pushed up by the fact that 1/3 of the world's fertilizer is transported through the Strait of Hormuz. And right now, that's a real choke point when it comes to the global economy because of Iran's control of it and the US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And so fertilizer is going to be more expensive, not only due to fuel costs going up, but also due to the fact that there's that chokehold situation taking place. The Trump administration had planned to temporarily reduce tariffs on beef imports in an effort to bring down prices. But Cenk, you're gonna love this so much. By love, I mean absolutely loathe. It does reinforce an argument you've been making over and over again on this show for many, many years, which is the fact that we are controlled by moneyed interests. So as a result of Trump's proposal there about tariffs, here's what happened. After an outcry from some congressional Republicans and cattle ranchers, the Trump administration said it would delay that plan. He does have one other possible solution, and it would be an uphill battle. But before we get to that, Cenk, tell us a little more about how much the cost of flights is increasing.
Yeah, so that's gone up 21%, and I felt it. I'm having to pay it over and over as I travel. And about 30% of Americans have canceled their vacations. And Trump says, I don't care. You guys aren't my donors. You don't have blackmail on me. You're not beloved Israel. I don't care. Coffee's gone up 19%. Vegetables overall have gone up 12%. Tomatoes in particular have gone up 40%. So before on the show, we talked about leading indicators and lagging indicators. So we're in the middle indicators right now as we speak. So you already got hit with the leading indicator, which was gas prices. And some of the lagging indicators are still rolling in. But right now, food prices are getting hit real hard. Because they're kind of in the middle. They get hit right after the gas prices. So obviously airplane tickets are very much affected by fuel prices. Hence they're affected in the middle. So the middle has just begun. So gas prices is the beginning, then all of this inflation, and then the rest of the catastrophes roll out from here. And this is based on a ludicrous, insane market that believes that the war is almost over. So once they realize the war is not over, the oil prices are going to skyrocket, and everything you're seeing here is going to greatly amplify. So if you thought it was bad that your plane tickets have gone up 21%, buckle up and brace for impact, because it's gonna get much worse. And the other thing I heard from that clip is, it doesn't look like Trump has any intention of wrapping this up. He keeps talking about the stock market's gonna go down, could go down further. If he was gonna end the war, he'd never talk about the market going down. He'd talk about how it was gonna go up. And so I'm really worried that what's in his mind right now, based on what he said over the last 2 days, is no, this is no big deal. The markets are up. Everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. We're gonna go back in. And that's because Israel has him by the testicles, and they're squeezing super hard, and Israel 100% controls America.
They're squeezing harder than an IDF soldier in one of those Israeli prisons, to be honest with you. So apparently Trump is calling for unity after another violent incident. But the way this gets covered depends on who's trying to spin it and who's willing to call it out. On the right, the framing turns Trump into some kind of heroic victim, a uniquely important figure being targeted because he's just that powerful. On the left, the focus is on Trump's long, obvious relationship with violent rhetoric and the political climate he helped create. Same event, completely different narrative. And that is exactly why I recommend Ground News. It's a website and app that pulls together reporting from across the political spectrum so you can compare headlines side by side, see the bias distribution of the coverage, check the factuality ratings of the sources, and even see who owns the outlets behind the reporting. Because once you start looking at coverage that way, it becomes a lot easier to see when the media isn't informing you, it's managing your perception. Ground News also has a blind spot feed, which highlights stories that one side of the political spectrum is barely covering at all, so you're not trapped inside the version of events your media bubble wants you to accept. If you're tired of being fed somebody else's narrative, I genuinely recommend Ground News. Go to ground.news/TYT or scan the QR code to get 40% off Ground News Vantage Plan. Just to give you guys a sense of just how bad gas prices already are. So let's go to graphic 6 here. So the average nationwide cost of 1 gallon of regular unleaded gasoline is roughly $4.50. compared with $3.14 a year ago, according to AAA. And just a side note, since we live in California, Cenk, we're already paying over $6 a gallon for gas because gas is typically higher. The cost is higher in California. But it's about to get a lot worse for Californians specifically. You wanna know why? Because we don't have the refineries necessary to refine the oil that we're producing here, right? It's a California thing. We don't want refineries. We care about the environment, yada, yada. We just got our last shipment of oil from the Middle East. So we're about to suffer a significant shortage. And that on top of the insanely high gas tax that we have in California, coupled with the federal gas tax, pretty bad, pretty bad. But Trump has floated the idea of potentially suspending the federal gas tax. Now, will he be able to accomplish that? He can't do it unilaterally. He would need Congress to act. And it looks like Congress isn't really as open to it as you would think. Okay, so Axios explains that Trump does have an uphill battle on that objective. Republican lawmakers, including both Democrat and Republican lawmakers in the Senate and the House have been open to the idea. For instance, you have Senator Josh Hawley promising legislation to make this a reality. Then you have some buy-in from Democrats like Senator Mark Kelly and Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear. Not that he matters that much. He's not going to be able to vote on it, but maybe he's applying pressure to Democrats in Congress to, make good on what Trump is trying to accomplish by, suspending the gas tax. However, then you have the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, who seems like he's not so open to the idea. So Thune told reporters the following: "I've not in the past obviously been a fan of that idea. So let's just pause and acknowledge the fact that maybe for the first time in my adult life, I've come across a statement from a Republican lawmaker against repealing taxes." Now, of course, these are regressive taxes that affect Americans who are already struggling with this terrible economy. So maybe he doesn't care about it that much. But he says that, but I've got some colleagues out there who think that it's a good idea. So we'll hear them out. But then he notes the revenue loss and how it would hurt. Apparently, we have a highway trust fund, which I'm shocked by, Cenk, because our infrastructure is garbage. But nonetheless, we have some sort of highway trust fund, and the gas tax is what contributes to that fund. So the research firm Clearview Energy Partners said a hypothetical gas tax waiver from May 15th through November 30th would cost nearly $14 billion. Just to note that the underestimate on how much the Pentagon is spending on the Iran war is $25 billion. It would have been far better if we just didn't enter the war, but we don't have a leader who's really smart or safe from blackmail from a foreign government. But nonetheless, according to Thune, the best thing that can happen for gas prices is for the Strait of Hormuz to get opened up again. And Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer tends to agree. He's calling for an end to the war. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
Americans are paying over $4.50 for a gallon of gas because Donald Trump refuses to end this war. $1.50 more than when this war started. Americans need every cent they can get right now. And Senate Democrats will work with whomever it takes to bring down costs. But Republicans need to realize that Donald Trump's proposal to suspend the gas tax is simply not enough. 18 cents of gas tax relief a gallon doesn't even come close to the $1.50 gas price increase from this war. Americans can't afford for their economy to be left on life support, which is why we need to end this war and get our economy back on track.
I'm glad he said we need to end this war. I totally agree with him on that. But if anyone's under the impression that Trump is factoring in Americans' financial situation and motivating him to end the war, you'd be mistaken. You heard what Trump had to say earlier. Here's another video of him reiterating the point.
To what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all.
You heard it from the horse's mouth, okay? He doesn't think about Americans' financial situation. And it shows. Cenk, back to you.
Yeah, so look, there's two elements to this. One is how painfully stupid Donald Trump is. Even if you don't care about America's financial situation, which he most certainly doesn't, at least be savvy enough to say that you do, and it breaks your heart, and you're really worried about it, but we need to do this, blah, 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 right? But he doesn't, because he's a moronic billionaire who was handed money by his dad, and he blew that, and then by his second dad, Jeff Zucker, at NBC. Yeah, and then he's now handed money through crypto scams by every criminal and country in the world. And so that's how he makes his money, by being a corrupt scam artist. But he's not even that good at it. That's what's so frustrating, right? Like our situation got so bad that the country was so desperate because how sick the establishment is that they trusted this obvious two-bit con man instead. So he's dumb enough to say he doesn't care about you. But the second part, Anna, I don't think, no, it's not just dumbness. No, to me, his concern about the nuclear weapons is utter horse crap. I don't believe him at all. At not 1%. He told us the nuclear facilities were utterly destroyed earlier in the first war we did with Iran. And he said we were totally past the nuclear issue. He's bringing the nuclear issue back up because it's the easiest way to scare the 80-year-olds that watch Fox News. And to be honest, I've seen new polling showing how much people still watch mainstream media. It's not just 80-year-olds watching Fox News. Tons of people still get totally brainwashed and manipulated by local television, radio, and cable news. And those people, they don't know anything because the cable news and all of mainstream media 100% do propaganda for Israel. So all they don't have any idea how bad it is right now. And so Trump, and they have no idea that, no, we said we destroyed the nuclear facilities. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about with the nukes? No, he doesn't care about that. He's only using that because, to me, at this point, it has become completely obvious that Israel has blackmail over him. Because there is no other explanation for, I will purposely and obviously destroy the US and world economy on my own watch, destroy my own legacy. I'm in the low 30s and I'm gonna drive it into the 20s and I'm gonna make sure my party loses and my legacy is seen as a miserable failure. There's only one reason why you would do that. If the alternative is worse, and the alternative is the blackmail that Israel very likely has on Donald Trump, that is why we're all being forced to go into this war. And it's, guys,
Can we like maybe, do you think this country has the capacity to maybe, I don't know, raise political leaders who aren't disgusting perverts? Is that possible? Do you think we can maybe accomplish that? Why does our political system seem to attract or incentivize the scummiest, most disgusting people to want to be part of it?
Well, I know the reason why. The two things we talk about all the time. One is the donors want the least moral, and by the way, least intelligent blank slates they could find. Hey, who's a total moron who has no moral compass at all and will do exactly as we order him to do? Well, if that's what you want to order, George W. Bush is perfect. Donald Trump is perfect. All of these empty suits, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, Mike Johnson, you think those guys are smart? They're some of the dumbest, most immoral people in the country. They're the ones who raised their hand and said, I'll work for money, I'll sell out Americans. You're a foreign government, you're corporations, I'll sell you out. I mean, I'll support you and I'll sell Americans out. So then the media comes in and goes, oh, the incumbents are great. They have such important experience and they could do a terrific job of kissing Israel's ass. And they're the greatest, right? And they lie to you and lie to you and lie to you until they trick your 85-year-old grandmother to vote for an establishment Democrat or Republican who's gonna drive you into one of Israel's wars, rob you of all your money, give it to ExxonMobil, give it to Pfizer, give it to Israel, and make sure that your prices go up. You think Chuck Schumer's against the war? He's not against the war. Israel loves this war, so Chuck Schumer loves this war. He's just playing politics. They haven't done a single thing to end this war. Not a single thing. So now we were gonna get cuts at the Fed on interest rates. We're not getting that anymore. In fact, they'll probably raise interest rates, which will then hurt the economy even more because inflation is already out of control and we just hit the iceberg. We just scraped the iceberg. Wait till we get a breach in the hull, right? So guys, the reason my hair's on fire is because I swear to you that you don't realize the economic catastrophe headed our way if we go back into this war, and it's now almost not an if anymore. Trump keeps talking about, oh, the market could go down 20 or 25%. I thought oil prices were gonna get to 150, 200, 99 is not that bad, he said today. First of all, 99 is bad. That's why we have the inflation that we have now. And on top of that, he's going back in. So that's why he's saying, yeah, oil's gonna go up to massive numbers. The market is gonna crash. I can't stand the idiocy of Wall Street. I mean, today prices skyrocket, gas is through the roof, and those morons are still buying. They're still buying. They're the dumbest people in the world. So, okay, guys, here's a marker for you. Me versus all of Wall Street. And I'm gonna tell you right now, all of Wall Street is dead wrong, and that market is going to crash like we haven't seen in our lifetimes.
Maybe
And
they
then
know
go,
something we
"No
don't
one
know,
could have seen
Cenk.
it coming."
No, hold on though. Maybe they know something we don't know, right? So there's been a lot of insider trading taking place. So all the people propping up the markets right now, maybe they know when it's time to sell. I mean, maybe they're privy to information. And look, we know insider trading is happening. We know that the markets, there's funny money, there's all sorts of weird stuff taking place. The people that I worry about are normal people who are not, day traders, who are not involved in, managing people's money or any of that stuff. I'm worried about people who are dutifully contributing to their retirement accounts, doing everything right, and then they get screwed in the end anyway. They get screwed in the end anyway. And by the way, this is a side note, but it's an important side note. This is why maintaining and protecting, and in fact, bolstering our Social Security program is essential. Because that is the only retirement money that is not tied to risk, that is not tied to the stock market. It's fixed income that our retired people here in the United States can benefit from once they're ready to retire. I mean, if you do away with that, all of our retirement is just, it hinges on the stock market, which is totally distorted right now.
Yeah. So look, I hate to say this to you, but I think your 401ks are going to get obliterated. Because to Anna's point, will some rich people lose a lot of money when the market crashes? Yes, okay. But a lot of them will know when to sell and then when to rebuy and when to take advantage of this opportunity, as they'll call it. You and your 401k will not have that opportunity. Instead, they'll take all of it, so much of it from you. They'll destroy your retirement savings and then laugh in your face. And go, I'm not that concerned about America's financial problems, as Trump did today. Yeah, Israel's more important than your retirement. Americans, shut up, don't retire. Work till you're 70, 75. Israel needs more wars, needs more death and destruction on our behalf, and paid for all by us. So guys, when this economic calamity hits, remember the three things that you should be furious at. Donald Trump, because he sold you out just to protect himself and whatever sick thing that he did that the Israelis have on tape. And he's taken over $300 million in bribes from Israel supporters. That is an empirical fact. You think he doesn't care about $300 million? Is that what mainstream media is telling us? That the most disgustingly corrupt president we've ever had doesn't care about the $300 million that the Adelson family alone gave him? An Israeli family that loves Jonathan Pollard, the traitor who betrayed America and gave him a party in Israel? Okay, so that's number one. Number two is the establishment. The establishment didn't do anything to stop Donald Trump. The establishment is the one that guaranteed money in politics and the disgusting corruption that is destroying our country. So if there's an establishment Democrat or Republican, you would be out of your mind. You would be insane to vote for them. Do not ever vote for an establishment figure. They will do this to you every time. And the third and most important one is Israel.
That should be the
your
first.
Retirement is destroyed, when your prices go up, there's only one reason it happened. It happened because Israel controls our government and our mainstream media completely. And they drove us into this war. They drove us into disaster and destruction. And you should be furious at Israel. Anyone who isn't furious at Israel is not paying attention. And by the way, is immoral. I mean, how many genocides, how many wars, how many ethnic cleansings, how much economic destruction can Israel do to America and the world? And then we just sit by and go, oh, no, we're all gonna be called anti-Semites by the bullies, the thugs, the Gestapo that run our media. I just talked to Chris Hedges, he's here. And he said the same exact thing that we're saying, which is the job of mainstream media is not to do news. It's to bully people who would challenge the government narrative. Once you get the so-called news media to actually attack anyone who threatens the government or challenges the government, you destroy all news, all journalism, all serving the American people, all on behalf of the donor class. And right now, the most evil donor by a lot is Israel.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.